Okay, hello everyone again. This is Tiara and
Hi, this is
Catherine, and we're
Catherine.
here this week to talk about our experience with puppies.
Yay!
So we both got puppies around the same time, and we both had like very, very typical, but also kind of intense, upbringings with our dogs. And so for anyone out there who is thinking about adopting a dog and wants to get some highly sensitive advice on how to handle that situation
Yes. Yeah.
or just hear what other people's experiences are like, um, definitely stay tuned.
The
Yeah.
funny thing is something I see a lot in our community is that people ask like, oh my God, I just got a puppy and I feel so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. And people ask me for advice. And that also was like a bit of the inspiration for this video to just share how to deal with those struggles when you're highly sensitive and you have a puppy at home, because it's really intense. Don't underestimate it. So,
Yeah, well, because I feel like most highly sensitive people enjoy pets and like will have that caregiving instinct, but then they're also like easily overwhelmed. So it's kind of like this situation,
yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So Tiara, perhaps you can tell us a bit about your time with
I
winter.
feel like you should start so I don't scare everyone
Nice.
off.
Oh, okay. We shouldn't scare people. Okay, so I don't know, for those of you who don't follow us that long yet, I do have a beagle. She's called Bailey, and now she's 1 year and 4 months old. So I'm already a dog owner for that time, or no, for a little bit less, because she was 8 weeks when she came into our home. But as you can imagine, an 8-week-old puppy is basically like a baby. They don't know anything. They have no rules. They don't know how to. They are not clean yet, so you have to teach them how to go outside to pee. They are going to have a lot of accidents, and they don't know the rhythm of your home yet, so they have to get used to that as well. And they don't sleep through nights. And in the first weeks, they miss their mommy, and it was really intense. I felt like I had a baby, actually, and it
Yeah.
made me really even doubt if we wanted kids, because
Yeah.
it was just so
Same. Yep. Same thing.
yeah, I remember when we first had her, and the first 2 weeks were so intense, and I was like having these big bags under my eyes. And when I look back at photos from those moments or from that time, I was like, oh wow, how did I get through it? But it's I don't want to scare you off. It's really a wonderful time, but be prepared that you make some take some weeks off for the first weeks, because those are the most intense weeks with a puppy that is healthy. But yeah, your puppy needs some time to settle in, so really take some time off.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like it's good to have more flexibility so that you can like be home more or whatever you need to do. But also with what you just said, I would suggest not necessarily like going on vacation with the dog, like being at home all the time,
Yeah.
because part of what I struggle with. So I got a dog around the same time. I actually think Winter and Bailey might actually be the same age because Winter is 1 year and 5 months.
Oh wait, maybe I calculated wrong. What day?
When was she born?
1st of September 2018.
Oh, so Winter's like 3 weeks younger. So she was
Yeah.
born the 23rd. Okay. So our
Yeah.
dogs are basically about the same age. Um, so you have a beagle. I have actually a Native American Indian dog, which most people haven't heard of. She basically looks like a husky crossed with a German Shepherd. Big dog. She's hypoallergenic too. So if anyone out there has allergies and hasn't gotten a dog yet because they couldn't or they didn't think they could, you
It's a
should check out
wonderful
the
breed.
breed.
Definitely.
um, so my experience was like all the typical puppy things, but then like so much more that was really challenging. So like the taking forever to like potty train and taking to the crate and sleep through the night, all of that. But on top of that, my dog went through a few weeks of having Giardia, which is a really common puppy parasite.
Yeah.
Along with that, had UTIs and then had back-to-back surgeries, which I can go into more later. But it was very intense. And so I actually was working from home at the time, and Matt was on winter break from his classes. So we both were at home and thought like, oh, this is the perfect time because we'll both be available. However, it sort of added to her separation anxiety. And so like one of my first tips that I would suggest, like going back, and people of course said this to us, like we're like, oh, it'll be fine, was to really set up a routine like from the get-go. So obviously like the first week or two that they come into the house, like you should just be focusing on getting them like accustomed to the environment, everything going on, and don't want to like dive into training. But beyond that, it's like really important that you go into your regular routine. So like if you're the kind of person that does work 8 hours a day away from home and they're going to have to be in the crate, get them used to that like as soon as they get home. Don't give them like 2 or 3 weeks of I'm home all day long and then suddenly leave.
No,
you know what I mean?
That's going to be really tough on your puppy. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think also a mistake that a lot of people make when they get a puppy is that they have so high expectations of what their dog should be able to do. And like, I think that's
they're
so
babies.
Yeah, they're babies. So I've already told you earlier, like it felt for us like we had a baby at home, but that's also how it is, you know. When you get a baby, when you become a mom, you don't expect your baby to be able to go on the potty within a week after it was born, and you don't expect your baby to sleep through the entire night after it's been in your home for a week. So why would you expect that of a puppy? A puppy is also still a little creature learning how to to go through life and to get used to your structure. So
and it's like it's a different species. You have a language barrier, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so
different.
Yeah, I saw it yesterday. It broke my heart. I saw a woman who took in a puppy of 12 weeks because the owners of the puppy didn't like that the puppy didn't listen perfectly yet. And it's like they had it for 1 month, 4 weeks, 1 month. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Don't have too high expectations of your puppy being perfect when it enters your home. And also for like, it's going to be a tough 2 first years, you know, because basically you can compare it to a baby who grows into a toddler, then a child, then a teenager, which is really challenging because they don't listen. And then eventually when they turn 20 years old in dog years, so like about 2, then finally you have the dog you want. But it's 2 years that are intense. So
it's very rewarding, but you have to like put in the work. And so if people are out there thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna adopt a puppy and it's gonna be so fun and yay, like it is, but you have to like get there. You have to earn that, and it's a very intense and rewarding like bonding and training process to get there. So especially if you're adopting a puppy versus like going to the shelter, and that's a whole other thing that I think would be better talked about by other people who have adopted a shelter dog at an older age. It's a whole different story. But yeah, I mean, and it's funny that we talk about like comparing them to kids, because like Matt and I had a really hard time with Winter in the beginning for like all the health things she was dealing with on top of her being a puppy. And I'd had a puppy before, and Matt had never had a puppy or a dog before because he was allergic, like he has allergies, which is why we chose this breed. But back when we first got her, I had sort of had an idea of what was normal to experience. And then there were a few times that like I noticed some red flags, which I will say my intuition has always been spot on with her, and thank God for it, because I was the one that noticed like when things were, you know, not right, to be able to like bring her into the vet. But we had been talking to other friends and family who had puppies before and had kids before, and 2 different people had said that their like experience with a puppy was actually harder than their experience with a baby. Because the thing is, when you and this isn't to scare anyone off, but just to give you like a very honest picture, and we'll talk about all the amazing things too.
Yes, definitely.
But that if you imagine like, and of course like I've never had a baby, so I can't compare, but this is just relaying examples from people who have had.
I've heard the same.
Obviously there's different challenges in each scenario, but when you think about like the very early on stages, when a baby is really young and just needs you and crying and can't sleep, whatever, those are typical. But then it's like in a little like basket, you just hold it doesn't like run across the room. With a dog, it's like you're trying to teach it things and you know, potty train it and get it to sleep or whatever, but then it's also like thing that can jump up on the counter and hurt itself. like of course your job as a caregiver is to stop like any young being from hurting itself, but a baby's not going to jump up onto the counter and grab a steak knife, you know, like
step by step. And
so
definitely more intense. And also they chew up everything that's laying around in your home, so you really have to continuously watch what your dog is doing. And that's what's really intense for highly sensitive people, because they are really aware of everything, and of their surroundings. So every time the puppy moves, they're like, what's going on?
Well, and you do it. It's constant. Like you have to be constantly, they demand a lot from you in the beginning,
Yes.
which is hard for someone
Yeah.
who needs to have that sort of like regenerative process each day.
Yeah, and I think a different tip that really helps with that in that progress where you're really struggling and feeling so overwhelmed is to hire either a dog trainer or watch dog training videos on YouTube or any other channel that sells them or whatever.
Go to like an obedience class or something.
Yeah, go to an obedience class, or if you know somebody in your surroundings who has a really well-educated dog, to just talk to them, just call them up, tell them what you're struggling with, and they will definitely give you good tips. Because I had that. My sister, she's really good at training dogs. I don't know if I've ever told this, but she's really talented at understanding dogs, the language, how to train them to behave, and to how to educate a puppy. And I think in the first few weeks I called her every day to ask about every single thing what that I was struggling with. But it really helped, because you got advice on how to train your puppy to behave. And the first weeks are so crucial for that, of course, in the puppy's tempo, so not too extreme. That's again about expectations, but it's like those weeks are so crucial for the rest of the education of your puppies. So just really playful, trying to train your puppy what it is allowed to do and what it isn't allowed to do, and you will have so much pleasure from it in the future. And a dog trainer can definitely help with that. So
right, I think just having that constant feedback for them, whether they're doing good or they're doing bad, like just start, like establish that communication from the beginning, and that you're the one that makes the rules. Because with a smaller dog, it's not as big of a deal if they get into something. You just pick them up and they're safe, like whatever. But especially with a large dog, so if you're thinking about adopting a large breed, especially, like there's all this stuff out there about like being alpha, but you don't have to be like, you don't have to be mean, you don't have to be angry, you just and stern, but you just be like firm. You can be calm and firm, and that's kind of like the tone that you want to take with them, and establish that from the beginning. Because especially once your large breed puppy becomes a teenager and is the same size as you, you have to make sure that for their own safety, like for everyone's safety,
know the rules.
Right, that they understand that you're the one that's in charge and makes the rules. But and then also to expect that teenage phase, like when they just stop caring about the commands you're giving them. It's not personal. Like it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It's just going through the teenage years.
Basically.
And that will end. And actually that's the sad thing, is I think a lot of the times dogs end up being given to shelters during that adolescence, that people don't realize that that's like teenage and it will end. Not like you're gonna have a defiant dog. Like if you're doing consistent training and your dog is like acting out during the teenage years, like that's not gonna be forever.
It's normal, because like with us humans as well, when we're teenagers, most of us act differently than when we're grown up or when we're kids. So, and with humans, we think like, wow, that's normal. So why don't we do that with dogs? And I think it's important for people to realize that that's going to be a really tough phase. I think the puberty of my dog, or the teenage years, are more tough than the puppy time, because it's just so frustrating. You've built up this trust between you, and you've built up a really strong relationship and everything. The dog knows its rules, and suddenly boom, everything is gone. And it's not gone, it just feels like it at the moment. But because now I feel like, okay, she's going back to knowing. But it was really intense a few months ago, because she really was peaking in it. And you just need to be aware that this phase also can be experienced as really frustrating. And
I think if you know the stages, then you kind of know what to expect, right? So it's like the first month or two is like crazy, getting them into their, like being able to be potty trained and sleep training or whatever. And then after that, it's just like general obedience training, like building them up. And then maybe like 6 months or so, maybe 8 months, they start getting into like, more energy, more teenage.
Definitely.
Kind of like firm boundaries for like a year, and then you're good.
Do you have another tip, Tiara, which you recommend?
So because I have a few that actually I think we kind of walked through, like a few of things I was thinking in terms of tips, because obviously the first one, like you said, was to get help, like ask friends and family for help, especially if you live by yourself, like if you're doing this by yourself. really need someone to help you.
Yeah,
Just because,
can't do it
especially as a
alone.
highly sensitive person, like you are going to lose sleep. You are going to be, your patience is going to be tested. Like you're not going to have as much downtime. You're not going to have as much alone time. But at the end of the day, like the flip side of all this stuff, like when they are older, when they are behaving and don't need anything from you, like it's really healing, I think, for highly sensitive people to have an
Yes.
animal companion.
Yeah.
And they're very like, I think the beautiful thing about the experience I've had with dogs is whenever you're feeling you're going through something and you have like an emotion you're trying to deal with or process and you just like don't want to deal with humans, like
Yeah.
they're just the best because they don't expect anything of you. They love you no matter who you are. Like you come home with, you know, bad energy and they're just like happy to see you. It doesn't really matter, you know.
Yeah.
And you don't have to explain anything to them. Like I used to take my golden retriever. She is like my sister because I like grew up with her, so she's like my sister to me. But we would go on like hikes and walks anytime I was just like dealing with some stupid teenage thing that no one like understood. It was just teenage, you know.
Yeah.
Taking her on a walk or something and like looking in her eyes and knowing that she just was so happy to be with me even if I was crying, like, and she would run up to me if I was crying, like they're just the best. But anyway, so definitely like get help, you know, in the beginning, because like you just have to be ready for the fact that you're going to have a few weeks or a month or two, especially in the beginning, that you're like not really doing all that hot. But if you know how to take care of yourself, like this is a great experience to learn like micro self-care. Like even if you have 5 seconds, which sometimes you only have 5 seconds, you learn like, okay, this is my 5 seconds that I need to breathe or drink water, like whatever you need to do that's going to replenish you in those 5 seconds. Because there were literally times where I would have to like ask Matt to take over just to use the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Just to take it easy for yourself and to rest. Yeah, I think I also wrote down this tip to take time to rest in between.
Anytime they're sleeping, it's like a baby. If they're sleeping, you're sleeping. Like take naps. Yeah,
just really take your downtime when the dog has downtime. Take your own downtime. Don't do a lot of other stuff next to it. You have time for that when your dog is awake. So yeah, just really relax when you can. And also another one which I wrote down, which really helped me, and it's also really important for the development of your dog. In the first months, you need to socialize your dog.
That's on my list too. Yeah, take them everywhere.
You need to get your dog used to other dogs, to the park, to everything where you want to take your dog. You basically need to get your dog used to. So like cars, everything is new for your dog and it doesn't know it. And just step by step introduce your dog to it. But what I want to talk about is what helped me a lot is to organize play dates with other dog owners in the same stage of puppy phase. Because obviously when you have a puppy who is 12 weeks old, then they are allowed to go and play with other dogs because they've had all their shots, you know. Then you don't want to bring your dog immediately into a group of 5 or 10 adult dogs, because it's going to be really overwhelming for the little puppy who has never seen other dogs besides the litter, you know. So what really helped me is to have a few friends in my surroundings, to have a small dog or a puppy or whatever fits my own dog, and to meet up with them on outside, to just let the dogs play, get used to each other, and to really socialize your dog. And eventually, once my dog was really socialized with those dogs, I dared to take them to dog playgrounds or to the dog park to really meet other dogs that we don't know yet. And it definitely helped to exhaust my dog. It sounds really bad, but
no, but a tired dog is a happy dog.
Yeah, a tired dog is a happy dog. And of course, I really was careful with how long I took those moments. I didn't go for hours, but even 5 or 10 minutes were enough sometimes, especially in the beginning, to expose your dog to other dogs. And then we went home and she had time to rest. But it just really helps, you know, so you don't always have to do it on your own. Because the funny thing is, adult dogs also teach younger dogs what to do and what not to do. So basically they help you to educate your dog. So
they do. Yeah,
it's definitely a good tip for me.
I think that actually this is a benefit for highly sensitive people, that I feel like highly sensitive people are good, obviously, at like detecting subtle changes and emotions and stuff. And so with Winter, I was able to see at the dog park, like, oh, I recognize like that. Like, oh, the other thing I should mention, well, there's a lot of things I should mention about Winter because she's special, but she's a highly sensitive dog. So there would be times at the dog park, and it's because I'm highly sensitive that I recognize the facial expression, because she would be like having a great time, and then all of a sudden she'd get like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, she's done. Like, she's had enough. She's overwhelmed. And dogs would be coming at her, and she would just be like, I don't like, get me out of here, you know?
Yeah.
I guess just paying attention, like, get to know their, and learn their like cues, and pay attention to when they're excited or they've had enough and they're ready to go home. But the socialization thing, because it's on my list too, and actually I can talk about the flip side about what happens when you don't socialize.
Yeah.
So what happened with Winter was that, so we got her from a breeder, and like very reputable breeder. Her bloodline was like top notch. There was no reasons for us to think that she wasn't going to be like super healthy. And we brought her home, and she got this like puppy parasite, which is really normal. So if you have a puppy and you want to avoid dealing with any intestinal stuff, like, just be really good about like picking up after them, and just make sure they're not eating stuff into the yard, because that's basically how they get parasites. But so she had parasites for a while, and it was just like a nightmare. And then she got UTIs, and then we had her spayed at 6 months, which I guess is typical of the United States, but there's all this debate. So do research if you want to know different opinions on when or if to spay or neuter your pet. But anyway, so she came out of her spay surgery and was healed. And we were like, oh, thank God we're out of the woods. Like, no more crazy. And then the first time I took her to do like a dog play date, she played with a friend of mine. My friend of mine had a puppy that was about the same size, and she came home and she was limping. So I had with my golden retriever when I was younger, she had torn her ACL when she was a puppy, but she sort of was able to live with it. We just gave her pain meds, and it was manageable. But I was able to recognize like that sign of seeing them like walk kind of weird and limping a little bit. And so with Winter, I started taking her on walks at that time, and started noticing that she was limping, and she could barely get like a block down the street, and was looking like my 12-year-old arthritic dog from my childhood. And I was like, this is not normal. And so I just had the inkling. I'm like, I'm going to take her in and get some x-rays. And sure enough, she had severe hip dysplasia on both sides.
Yeah.
Like, we were just blown away at that point. And so she was actually eligible to get surgeries. So we ended up doing the surgery on her left side in last May, and then her right side in June. And then it's like a several month healing process. And of course
it's tough. Yeah,
she came out of the second surgery. Thank God it was a second surgery, not the first one, because they need like one. They can't do both at the same time, because they obviously need one strong leg to support them while the other one's healing. And the second one came out with nerve damage. So she had sciatic nerve damage all the way down her leg, and came out like dragging her leg. And so we just went through like
a lot of tough times.
Yeah. And so it's because, and I will say to everyone, like, she's doing great now. She's fully healed for the most part. I think she's got a little bit of healing left still on her leg to like get the nerves to be functioning all the way down her leg. But she's like a happy, normal dog. She gets to run and play. Everything is great. And we're building her immune system back up so she doesn't get any more parasites. I had like get pet insurance if you can afford it, because I, looking back, wish that Matt and I had gotten insurance, because so because the first like probably 8 months of her puppy life at home, she was either sick or recovering from surgery. She didn't get to go play with other dogs and do all the normal socialization things. And now we're sort of seeing, and she also has separation anxiety, because both of us have been home with her constantly. So now we're sort of at the tail end of like recovering from all this stuff, but now dealing with separation anxiety and the lack of socialization.
Yeah.
He was always kind of a shy, anxious dog. I mean, that's kind of typical of the breed. And also I think she's a highly sensitive dog. But so when we take her on walks and we take her new places, like sometimes she's kind of like, oh, I don't know what to expect here, and with other dogs as well. So, and it's, you can undo these things like the separation anxiety and the socialization, even at this point. Like, there's still hope. She's still going to be like, she still learns, and is taking in information even like almost at 2 years old. So even if you somehow something happens, like my situation, you don't get to socialize them in the first few months, like
don't worry.
it's okay. It's just harder because it takes longer, and they've already had like core experiences in their brain, you know, that are not necessarily like a lot of information with socialization or whatever it is. So, it's fix. It's just a lot of work.
Yeah, definitely a lot of work, and it's really important to put effort into socialization. So if you can do it in the first months, do so. If your dog is sick and you can't, then try to pick it up as soon as your dog gets better, because it's definitely going to improve your dog's life, but also your life. It's going to make it a more calm life. So.
We had her sitting at the front door too while she was recovering, so she got to watch like other people. I mean, it was sad because she's like watching everyone else life, but it was a good way of like socializing her as best we could, because she's watching other dogs walking, she's watching kids on the street
riding their bikes from a distance. It's good.
So I would say, like a tip that I would say if you want to sort of avoid some of the things that I went through is like really trust your intuition, because that's kind of what saved every single time with like her UTIs. And so it helped because I'd had a dog before, but I think that highly sensitive people are really good at detecting like small changes in behavior and environment. So just get to know your dog really well. And anytime you feel like you see something different from what's normal for them, like just call your vet, just ask.
Or somebody else who has a dog, and just ask for advice. Don't think that you have to do it on your own. And I think that's also a good one to end this with, to just have faith, ask people for help, and just really take care of yourself in that progress. So anyways, that's it on dogs for now. We'll definitely make more videos on dogs because we're both really dog lovers, and perhaps also on cats. I don't have a cat, but Tiara does. So, So if you like this, definitely stay tuned and subscribe to our channel to see what we've been sharing lately. So thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And I love talking about our pets today.
I was like, I could go on and on forever.
I love this topic.